Okay. Is our sound good? Testing 1, 2, 3. If I had a sound man, I wouldn't have to test it after I go live. But I thought it's funny. I was watching. I don't know why Facebook. I think I check out Facebook like once a week maybe. But when I do check out Facebook, sometimes I check out these construction videos, and it's I don't know how to approach this really without, you know what I mean. It's hard for somebody like me who's been in the construction industry my entire life, literally, and I've been working for over 44 years in construction. It's hard for me to watch these things and not really want to give some input. And I guess the only thing I would like to do is just put in my 2 cents, because there seems to be so many fads on the internet, especially social media. They just It's just like with these pallets, building with these pallets things, you know. And I just wanted to kind of put in my 2 cents. And you can say, "Oh, you're not an expert," but I mean, who are the experts, right? If you can't trust somebody that's been in construction for 44 years, then I don't know who you're going to trust. You have to pick a source that you trust, but they have to have experience, and the experience has to really include being in business. Because when you're in the business, there's a lot of responsibility. There's lots of liability. So we have to do things in a way. We have to follow codes. We have insurance requirements that we have to meet for. You know what I mean? There's just all kinds of things that does, that shows you that if somebody's been in business for as long as I have. My current business is almost 20 years old. And before that, I was a subcontractor, framing and doing all sorts of things, working in architecture as a project manager. So, I don't know. I get a lot of feedback going, "Well, why are you an expert?" uh, anyway, find somebody you trust, but make sure that person you trust is not this guy who goes out and buys some pallets and builds with them. Okay, and I'm going to show you why. And again, if you're an objective person, if you're a reasonable person, you listen and you'll learn. If you're not, if you're belligerent and you're just like some kind of, I see a lot of fans of pages. I get a lot of these people like in the comments. The people who follow these channels are very, I don't know why they feel like they own the channel, but they come at you like they do. Anyway, enough of that. So I thought I would just take this example, and I think this guy is using, I think these pallets are like 3 feet by 4 feet, but I think this is about, I don't know, somewhere between 16 and 20 feet. So I just drew out an example. I was going to get rid of these walls and start over. I meant to do that before I started. But I did that so I could demonstrate something here about efficiency. And I guess what I wanted to do was just kind of start off with how a contractor would build this, and how the codes are set up to build this, and how banks who finance projects expect you to build it, how insurance companies who insure projects expect you to build it. You see, there's a whole industry. Why am I looking at my microphone? I should be looking at the camera. It's funny. But let me go see if there's anybody. Not yet, but it's okay. I'm sure it'll be fine. But so I guess what I'm trying to say there is, it's not just one person's opinion. It's how an industry, a whole industry, has set up how they're called standards, right? So we have codes and standards and practices, and they're all based on engineering, efficiency. And you see, efficiency is the key, because in an industry, that it needs to be profitable, it has to be efficient. So, in order to be efficient, you have to think about what is the really honestly the minimal what is the minimum required, and this is what building codes do. They set up the minimum requirements for something to be built and meet a certain standard. And people say, oh, well, buildings aren't built as well in America. Well, we have figured out the most efficient way to build so that if we do have storms, let me tell you this, there's no carpenter that can build a house that can withstand a direct hit from a tornado or a direct hit from a hurricane. You could probably pour it out of 100% concrete and reinforced, that kind of thing. You could build something, but again, that's going to cost 5-6 times more. You see, it's about efficiency. And so we have decided in our country that there is a certain level of standard that meets, to meet that standard so that we can live and be happy and not spend $1 million on every house we build, but that it meets a structural standard that we have set. Okay. Now I feel like it's supposed to rain all week. Yeah. Yes, this is Barrett. I'll call in a bit. Doing live stream. You always answer your kids no matter what is happening. Yes. Smiley face. So let's look at this, and I was going to draw all this stuff out by hand, but I think I'll use one of my favorite extensions, and that's the Medique. The Medique extensions, I have wall, truss, foundation, electrical. I'm not sure where my foundation is. I need to reload it. But the wall one helps you build walls. So I'm just going to come and I'm going to draw these first, and I've got this kind of set up with the siding you saw there, but I wanted to show you how easy the Medique extensions are. Again, efficiency. If I wanted to spend an hour more, I would draw all this by hand, but I'm trying to demonstrate something here. So that was our walls. Now let's turn off let's close this, and let's turn off our cladding, our sheeting, our wall trim. We just want to get down to the framing, okay? Because that's really what we're talking about. These are your structural components. And now I noticed that he had a window. If you flip through here, and again, I'm not picking on this guy, but it's a stereotypical, hey, look, here's a way to build your shed, your house or whatever. And it is a way, but not the best way. So I think I had, we go to Medique, and we got our wall or window. I think I had this set up. It was pretty wide. It was like a 9-foot, but we'll just call it 8 feet. We'll call it 996 by 42, something like that. He just had a big window, and I meant to set the header height at 83.5, which again, headers are a big issue here, and we'll just stick it in the middle somewhere like that. And so that way we can just talk about the framing. Well, somehow I put 2 in there. There we go. So this is your typical way to frame just your 8-foot wall. Okay, you can see that we have 2x4 studs at 16 inches on center. I think he put his rafters on 2-foot centers, which is fine for this type of construction. You could get by with 2-foot centers. I prefer 16. Just gives you more nailing options on your exterior sheeting, siding, and drywall, everything, But those rafters should stack over the studs. And this is what we're going to talk about a little bit is structural systems in a wall and roof system. Your structural components should be stacked on top of each other. If I had floor joist down here, the floor joist would be under this stud. The stud would sit on top of the floor joist. Then the rafter would sit on top of that. You see, that puts all your loads in those points. So there's lots of advantages to doing that, because now you've got these chases all the way from your crawl space or basement. You got a chase to come up through your floor joist, up through your wall, up through your up into your roof, because you're gonna have wiring sometimes that'll come from different places that needs to go up to the up into the roof for the ceiling, for ceiling light fixtures and all that. So, but the other thing is how corners tie together. You see, on these corners, these walls overlap. You can see this wall right here ends right here. This is the last stud in this wall over here. It butts into the corner like this, but you see how the top plates overlap. That's a structural concept. It's a structural technique to tie these walls together. So that's another good example of when you see people doing this kind of thing. They'll have a single top plate like this, and so when you have a single top plate, there's no opportunity to tie the walls together. You can imagine if we we'll go in here, and I was going to delete all the or explode that, but I've got my other layers. You can just imagine if we deleted this top plate, there would be no way to overlap. Okay, so this top plate of this wall overlaps that corner. Okay, so so the other thing you've got here is a lightweight but structural wall. So in other words, when we would frame this wall, we would frame it laying down on the concrete or floor, whatever it is, right? We'd frame it laying down like that. Okay. We would build it. We'd build our, we'd put our headers and our jacks, our trimmers and tees in like this. You see, we'd have all these cripples under this, the sill. The fact that the studs go from the bottom plate all the way to the top makes the wall rigid, right? If you go to here, you'll see he has a hinge in the wall where these pallets stack on top of each other. There is no continuity from the bottom plate to the top plate. See, there's so we call this a hinge as far as structural systems go. So the other thing I wanted to mention is the efficiency. Again, efficiency. There's actually more wood in this wall than is necessary, and it's really kind of wasteful. You would probably be better off to chop these pallets up into little pieces and use them for firewood. You'd get more energy, probably get more benefit out of them, or take them apart and make furniture or something. I've seen that, but this is a very inefficient use of those pallets, and nobody really talks about efficiency. Nobody talks about structural qualities. You'll see later. You see, well, not later, right here. You see here, he's just putting these frames in for windows. There's no header coming across here, and the problem with that is if we draw, let's just draw a short section of 2x on top of here, 1.5. Let's make it a little bit longer. I think that'll demonstrate the issue here. We'll make that a group. I didn't mean to make it a component. I meant to make it a group. Then just pull it out here. So lumber has a grain orientation. Okay, when you lay dimension lumber or any kind of lumber flat like this, it wants to deflect more. See, don't I have a bendy thing? A bendy, I thought I had something that bent. Oh, here it is, True Bend. Cool. I can't remember how to use this, but we'll see if I can remember. I'm trying to demonstrate the deflection. Let's go back and see if I can get that to work. True Bend, and we're going to put, well, this, okay, so I don't remember how to use it, so is that, oh, it's trying to bend it in that direction. Okay, anyway, the point is that when you lay lumber that has a grain orientation flat, it will deflect more, it will bend more than if you stand it up. And that's why we stand headers up. Okay. Now the grain is oriented lengthwise like this, and the way it is oriented to the wood, there will be less deflection on this same board with the same amount of weight on it. It won't bend as much. Okay. That's why when we look at headers, you'll see that when you stand the wall up. So what we would do is we'd build that wall on the floor, and it would be the first one. You build the longest wall first, and you stand it up. Okay, you can see that the 2x10 header is standing up. Okay, it's not just a bunch of 2x4s laying flat in there. And the 2x4 on the bottom is laying flat. The only thing it does is separate the 2x10 header to be the right thickness of the wall. That's all. That's its only function. It allows you to kind of build up the header before you put it into the wall, because that's what we do. We build our components. You don't want a sawhorse before we put them up. Let's see if we have anybody. No comments. Okay. Barrett's texting me. I saw that. We're getting groceries. Okay. Well, you saw that and you chose to text me anyway. Great going. Great going there, son. I'm just kidding. I love Barrett. He's a good son. Both my sons, all my kids are good. So, now, when we talk about efficiency, it's the number one. Okay, so when I say it's the number one issue or the number one goal, that efficiency has to include the minimum requirements, the minimum standards, that we are supposed to meet. So what you have is you say, okay, I need to meet this standard or this requirement. I need to be able to support the load of the wall. Okay, what is the minimum required to support that load coming from the roof, coming from the wall, going to the floor, going to the foundation? We determine that. Okay, engineers, they look at the weight of materials. They look, which is dead load. They look at live loads. How many people are going to be standing on the floor, how much snow are you going to have on the roof. They set a standard for that. It might be 1,200 linear. It might be 1,200 pounds a foot. Whatever, 800 pounds a linear foot. Then they say, okay, how much will a stud, hold up? How many studs do we have to have, and how close together do they have to be? And so we have determined that 16 inches on center is a good standard for a 2x4. Okay, again, you can go 2 feet. That's the minimum. 2 feet. You can imagine now, instead of having a stud here, it moves over. And so that means the plates between that can deflect. But because you're setting the rafter on top of the stud, there's no load between the plates. That's why you don't set your rafter in the middle here, because this would have a tendency to deflect between the studs if you did that. So now, getting back to the efficiency part of this, this right here, I counted his pallets. This is the number of pallets it took him to build his walls. Okay, there's the big Ford F-150 four-wheel drive carrying it. Okay, so what did we get in the truck? What were we able to carry in the truck? And how much did these cost? I don't think he got these for free. These are, if you look at this, these are not your standard pallets, okay? Standard pallets have little wimpy boards on, facing them, on the face of them, and they're nowhere near this beefy. I don't know if you can see that, okay? The typical pallet has like almost half-inch boards, and they're not this thick and all this. So he either knows somebody or he paid for these. And I promise you, if he did pay for them, one of these pallets costs more than the amount of studs that it in other words, if you go 4 feet, which is 3 studs, okay? So if I go, which is this one right here, the center of that one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that it probably costs 12. Well now it costs more, but probably costs $20 for the studs. But guess what? It takes 2 of those pallets to make that same section of the wall. Okay, so this is what we got in this truck. Now, what did we get in this truck over here? We got the bottom plates, which are pressure treated. It's going to take 4 12-footers. We got the plates, the top plates, and I even threw in some braces, enough 2x4s for braces. That would get you 2 top plates all the way around, and a brace coming down at an angle. Everybody always forgets to figure the braces. So that'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 braces, 5. I threw in some extra 2x4s. Then I threw in some extra studs. Okay, just because it looked neater on the stack. Then I've put all the exterior wall sheeting. Okay, and enough shingles. Okay, to do this roof. Take about 4 squares to do it. Right? All that. Now look, it doesn't even extend above, just barely above the cab. And look at all this other room you've got to put nails and Tyvek. You could put I should have put a roll of Tyvek right here. Right? So this is what we're talking about when we're talking about efficiency and cost. Because if you're doing this out in the middle of nowhere, and you need to make one trip to try to get as much done in a day, this is what we've come up with. We've come up with a system of pixel sticks that when you put them all together and tie them together with sheeting and nails and sheeting and screws, then it's very strong and it's very efficient. So I don't know. It's kind of funny that as somebody, and I know other people who are in the construction industry probably have to look away at social media because of the silliness you see, and there doesn't seem to be enough content, practical content, to get people to understand, because there will be people that swear. The first comment on this video is going to be, but I got the pallets for free, man. Yeah, you might have. But that doesn't mean that that's the best way to build it. So, especially if you're... Now, the other thing is that people who look at that for the first time and haven't ever built anything, they may think this is actually an easy way to build, but it's not. It's not. These pallets are heavy. One of these pallets probably weighs as much as like half the wall studs would weigh for the whole wall. And I can tell this looks like some kind of European. This looks like it's in Europe somewhere, because we don't wear these funny things, these big. These look like metric size lumber. Either that or I don't know, that's treated, so I was going to say he might have milled it, but it's treated, so it looks like a metric. These pallets don't look like pallets we have here either. Let's see if we have anybody making any. Here we go. 2 minutes of ads on a live video. Thanks, YouTube. Oh no, not on my videos. I don't have 2-minute ads. Hello from Burma. Hey Cole. Hello. Yeah, those are not the cheap whiteboard pallets that people give away. No, they're not. Yeah, that's what I think is fun. It's funny. The only thing old pallets are good for is firewood. That's what I said, Richard. Before he got here, I was like, they would probably be more efficient. Just breaking them up and using them for firewood, or I've seen people make furniture out of them. Now these pallets would be the best to do that with if you were going to make furniture. Those pallets that have those old, I don't know, some of them even have oak strips on them, and if you even try to take them off, they'll just break. So, I mean, the labor required to dismantle pallets is it's inefficient. It's not worth it. So let's do a shed roof here. Let's look at his roof was a little bit weird too, and this is what you kind of get sometimes too when you're not familiar with construction. This thing right here, perfect spot. So what we would do in this case is we would nail a plate down to the roof. I'll show you. This would be something quick to do. We would, if it hit right here, we'd nail a big wide plate, probably a 2x10, 9.25. It would come up 1.5 like that, and then we would make our rafter work to that point. We'd go from here, and I'm just gonna kind of eyeball this. If I can reference that point, that would come up about there, and then keep going. But you can see, then we'd probably use. The other thing is, if you look at his rafter, it's really kind of an overkill. And again, people with a little experience, you can go look at your southern pine and pick out your roof load. Go to your rafters, snow load. Even if it's ours is 2010, but yours might be 30, and you can go here. He only had about a 12-foot span. So if you look here, number 2 is the lumber that is used for framing. So you can see here at 16 inches on center, you could use a 2x8 there. It looks like he's using a 2x10. But see, you could set this up to where the span was actually here. If you took a 2x4 and put it under the rafter, let's just draw a quick rafter. I ain't got nothing else to do except go pick up my Walmart. So then we would come, let's see that. Down to here. I mean, some people might do this where they cut a notch and come down, then go to there, but that's an extra cut, kind of an extra cut. Then you would have, and this rafter isn't turning out very well, but you get the point, I think. Where's my magenta? There we go. We'll go 12 inches. Then we'll come down to here. Then we'll go up to there. Oops. That didn't work. And what we would do here is we would cut, first of all, this would be a little, this wouldn't be this, it wouldn't be that wimpy right there. Let's just grab this and we'll raise it up a little bit. See, I did it now. I'm getting into all this detail I didn't want to get into. I was just trying to make a point about pallets. We'd raise this bird's mouth up to where it was probably only hitting on that one right there, but I missed it, so we'll just, that way this cut's not as bad. See, and this one would go away. But then what we would do here is we would cut this tail down to where it was at least, yeah, you could cut it down a little bit. And if you were going to use a slope soffit, I was hoping I could cut that down a little bit more. Because you want a little bit left on that bird's mouth there. You don't want to just make it where there's no hook there, there's no plumb cut on the bird's mouth. But if you were going to make this a level soffit, the other thing you could do to make this, make sure I'm still editing that, is if you were going to make it a level soffit, I like the slope soffits, but you could also cut the tail like that so your face is not so big. And then it's 1.5. But the only point I was trying to make here was that what this plate then becomes is like a big bearing plate, right? It'll help carry some load in between the rafters. It spreads the load more evenly. We wouldn't put these bearing points on this roof. I mean, does he even know where the rafters are under here? How does he know this rafter is not between two rafters and he's putting that load directly on the sheeting? I don't think he does. So that's another poo-poo, faux pas. Later on he puts little triangles, which is really another faux pas. We wouldn't do that because those little pieces will split when you start trying to nail into them. So, and the other thing you can do to use a smaller rafter is to just put a, let's see, got a group? Yeah. You can put a stud right here. It would go on your existing wall. What it would do is it would, you'd have a stud there, but it would actually be turned this way, and it would be on top of that existing wall right there, but it would come out. You would have one underneath each stud, and what that allows you to do, is that Walmart calling? Is, it allows you to, I was trying not to get into a lot of detail here, but I don't think I'm going to make it. I don't think I'm going to be able to accomplish it. Like that. Well, see, what that would allow you to do is claim that your span is just this right here, which means if we go back to our rafter table, you might be able to squeeze in a 2x6, depending on, let's see, 16 inches on center. That's pushing it. So I don't know, I feel like my rafter's oversized just looking at it. That's 7 1/4 though, so that's what it would be. So, but you'd probably want to do this anyway, because then you could either vault this ceiling in this room, right? Because now you're extending this wall right here up to there, and you're also helping to support the load. This roof is still going to be a little bouncy just because of the length of the rafter. You'd have to put that there anyway because you're claiming your span is this far, but it's really this, this far over here. So this rafter is going to be bouncy if you don't put that stud underneath each one. So, but the thing I was trying to say about that is that your loads, your structural system should stack. So your next one will be right there, and so on, times 20. How many rafters have we got? Too many. Like that. So you can see. Oh, I screwed that up, didn't I? That first one wasn't 16 inches. That's why that worked out like that. I gotta go one more. Did I get it over there? Yeah, I couldn't see. Now if I go here, I think I should only go about like 16. Something like that. What that does is it sets up your structural. All the loads are point loads. That roof load's placed on the stud. The stud comes down. In a lot of cases, you'll have floor joist. That it'll be sitting on top of a floor joist, and then that sits on top of the foundation. And then what you've got is nice plumbing chases for wiring, or chases for plumbing and electrical, like that. So I'm not sure exactly how he did his rafters. I'd have to go back and really. Again, I'm not really picking on this guy, but you can see here he doesn't have a header, and there's no real way to create a structural system because the pallets are just random. You see, there's no really logic to any of it. So, and this whole Rockwell thing, I don't even want to go there. But you can see here, if he doesn't go back in, he can't fill in now. You see all this lumber is laying flat, so this is going to deflect here. If he doesn't leave a space between, and you see this on old houses, I've done, I don't know, over the past 42 years, I've done a lot of renovation work, and what you'd see is the headers, they didn't put sufficient headers above windows, and it would be like this. This roof load would make this deflect, and it would put uneven weight. It would put actual weight on the window when there's not supposed to be. There should be a gap all the way around a window that's not transferring or not accepting any load from any kind of structural system. So even if he blocks this in now, that load, since that lumber is laying flat instead of standing up like ours, even this header will have a tiny bit of deflection in it, not enough to hurt the window. So the bad part about this is that modern windows, well, he's doing it like the old-fashioned windows. Modern windows have a flange that you nail to the framing and at the top. So even if there's no immediate load transferred by the framing, there is the load that's transferred to the wall is going to get transferred to the flange of the window because it's nailed all the way around. Richard Zib, hi from the deep south of Mississippi. Yeah. The only thing, let's see, a lot of money in cutting them up for kindling wood. Yeah, I just sold another 6 bags. But I don't know. I just don't think there's enough content on the internet that's a lot of these professionals just. I mean, honestly, sometimes they don't have time. But in the time that they have off is they're resting up because, I mean, like now I'm obviously I'm not framing that much anymore. I did it for almost 30 years. So at some point you got to, take a break from it. But so the guys who are actually out doing the work are, they're resting on Sunday. they don't, they're not doing, they're not making videos necessarily, So I feel like there's too much garbage content on the internet. There's a bunch of do-it-yourselfers who are making content for their YouTube channels and Twitter, but there's not enough professionals doing it to offset, to make a difference. So all I'm asking people to do is to get advice from professionals and try to stay away from this kind of stuff. Just, it's entertainment. I look at this as entertainment. Because what I want to do is I want this guy to invite me to come and see this, 10 years from now. I don't know what. See, the problem with this is now he's got a roof load transferred on this member right here. And there's no cripples or studs under. It's just these boards turned flat, There's no real structural wire. Now, Richard, is this all looks like European stuff to me, doesn't it? To you, look at that plate. That's not a pressure treated plate we would have. And look at his attire. He's dressed like a European dude. Don't you agree? You're the expert. You're the European expert. Where are we? We're not there. We're not there. We're here. So sometimes I wonder if people like this guy knows better. Like I think sometimes people know better. They're just making content. They're making cute content for the internet. In other words, I think this guy knows that this is not the best way to do this, but it's fashionable. It's like shipping containers. Oh my God. Making houses out of shipping containers. It's sort of a fad, and when people see it, they take it seriously. And anyway, I've got videos on shipping containers too, making houses out of them. Anyway, I've got to go pick up my. It says your Walmart order is ready for curbside pickup. All right, awesome. I gotta go down the mountain, out of the woods. Anyway, I just thought, I don't know, sometimes I get these feelings I get these messages from the ether that say, you need to do this, you need to print out this information. And that's what I did, by cracky. So, anyway, anybody else got any other comments right quick? If not, I'm gonna head out, and I appreciate everybody for watching. If you got any questions or need any help on your project, you can go to atdrafting.com. This is my site where I help, where you can ask for help. This is my, again, and here's a little project map. You can see places all over the world I've done drawings. You can go down here, pick on the Australian one. This was kind of cool, Sonia's. Now you'll say, "Oh, there's a shipping container." You're right, but this was used for storage, and she had a little greenhouse. Right? I don't know why that's off to the side. I need to fix that. Then there was another. That's some barracks I did for Chief Don when he was at that base. They had live fire going on there. That's top secret stuff right there. But then this was a fishery in was it Zimbabwe? It was at one of the largest lakes in the world. The guy had a fishery, and just you can look around here. There's a normal house. What about that? This is that's Alaska. That's another shipping container. I know. It's like you say something about a system like shipping containers, and then you get blessed with people asking you to help them with shipping container projects. But all the ones I've done I felt like were appropriate. Like this one, this is a barn, okay? Another appropriate use for a shipping container, right? You don't want to live in one. Anyway, I'm rambling now. I just wanted to show you if you need help on a project, you can go here and fill out this little form, and I'll get it, and I'll return your call, your email, and thanks. There's the tiny cabin. There's an article about my tiny cabin I'm getting ready to build there, and you can look around at other cool stuff. But I am seriously rambling now, so I'm going to go, if I can find it again. I saw that how he built that just with pallets. That's interesting. Well, it's interesting, but that's all it is. Um, and that's my point. Is that it's interesting, but it's not a good way to build. So, you know, anyway, you have to watch. You have to go back from to the beginning and start looking at my little diatribe on efficiency and all that stuff. So, but anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate you watching.